Tensions over the dominance of the U.S. dollar in global finance are reaching unprecedented levels as former President Trump issues a stark warning to BRICS nations. His message was not just political rhetoric, it was an unmistakable declaration of economic warfare. In a forceful address, Trump demanded an unequivocal commitment from BRICS countries. They must never support any rival currency capable of challenging the dollar's global supremacy. His warning carried a chilling certainty: those who defy America's economic power will face ruthless retaliation. The punishment? A crippling 100% tariff, effectively cutting off access to the vast and interconnected U.S. market. Late last year, Trump's words struck like a dagger as he cautioned that any attempt to dethrone the dollar would lead to catastrophic consequences. There is zero chance, he declared, that BRICS will replace the U.S. dollar in international trade. And any nation that dares to try, say hello to tariffs and goodbye to America. His words carried the weight of a leader fully aware of his power and the gravity of the stakes. This year, Trump's stance has only hardened. Through social media, he has reaffirmed his unwavering commitment to defending the dollar. BRICS countries attempting to undermine the dollar will not be tolerated, he warned. We demand a clear commitment that these nations will neither create nor endorse any currency that threatens the supremacy of the U.S. dollar. For those who defy this demand, the consequences would be swift and devastating: economic isolation, an irreparable rift with the United States, and total obliteration in the global marketplace. Yet despite relentless pressure from Washington, Brazil, at the helm of the BRICS presidency, has taken a bold stand against the U.S. by spearheading efforts to reduce the bloc's dependence on the dollar. Brazil is igniting what could become a financial revolution with far-reaching global consequences. Their strategy is not just about finding alternatives. It is about reimagining how money moves across borders. By pushing for reforms that facilitate payments in local currencies, Brazil is directly challenging the dollar's long-standing hegemony. Their innovative approach, leveraging advanced technologies like blockchain and new payment systems, could gradually but profoundly shift the global financial landscape. This is not just a theoretical ambition. Brazil is already proving its effectiveness with its domestic PIX payment system. Since its launch in 2020, PIX has rapidly displaced traditional payment methods like cash and credit cards, signaling a tangible shift toward financial independence. As the battle for monetary dominance intensifies, the world watches closely. Will the U.S. dollar maintain its grip on global trade, or is a new financial order on the horizon? Now, Brazil is moving to expand this success on a global scale, offering a glimpse into a future where nations no longer have to rely on the U.S. dollar for international trade. One of the most striking developments in this financial shift is Brazil's push to advance the SML payment system, which enables direct settlements in Brazilian reais with neighboring countries like Argentina, Uruguay, and Paraguay. This is a direct challenge to the dollar's long-standing role as the world's intermediary currency. While the SML system currently requires several days to process payments, Brazil's efforts to integrate instant payment technology could revolutionize the system, making transactions faster, more secure, and far more cost-effective than anything the dollar can offer. As BRICS nations prepare to meet in South Africa later this month at the G20 summit, Brazil is set to unveil its full strategy for the July BRICS summit, with even more ambitious proposals on the table. The BRICS bloc is expanding rapidly, now welcoming new members such as Egypt, Ethiopia, Indonesia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates, countries increasingly unwilling to remain tethered to a dollar-dominated financial system. This growing resistance marks a profound shift in the global financial order. For decades, the U.S. dollar has reigned unchallenged as the foundation of global trade. Its dominance was no accident. It was the result of deliberate strategic moves that began in the aftermath of World War II. The 1944 Bretton Woods Agreement cemented the dollar's status as the cornerstone of international finance, pegging it to gold while other currencies were tied to the dollar. This system not only stabilized a war-torn world, but also secured America's supremacy in global finance for generations. However, cracks in this unshakable dominance began to emerge in the 1960s. Then, in 1971, President Nixon shocked the world by suspending the dollar's convertibility into gold, effectively dismantling the Bretton Woods system. Though the dollar remained the world's leading currency, this event marked the beginning of a new era of floating exchange rates. By the 1970s, the dollar further entrenched its dominance with the creation of the petrodollar system, ensuring that global oil transactions were priced exclusively in US dollars. This move guaranteed perpetual demand for the currency, insulating it from economic fluctuations. Yet today, the financial landscape is shifting in ways not seen since the collapse of Bretton Woods. As Brazil and other BRICS nations continue to challenge the status quo, the question remains, is the world on the brink of a new monetary order? Trump's warning to BRICS underscores a growing realization. The US dollar is under threat from powerful global players who no longer see it as indispensable. If BRICS succeeds in bypassing the dollar, the consequences for the United States could be catastrophic. Demand for US treasuries could plummet, borrowing costs could soar, and America's ability to exert financial influence on the global stage would be severely weakened. A rapid shift away from the dollar would send shockwaves through the global economy, shaking the very foundation of international commerce. For the U.S., such a transformation wouldn't just mark the decline of its unchallenged economic dominance, it would also cripple its geopolitical power. The question is no longer if the dollar will be dethroned, but when and how the U.S. will respond to this existential threat. As BRICS nations gain momentum in their efforts to reduce reliance on the dollar, the evidence is becoming undeniable. In early 2023, China and Brazil, two of the bloc's economic powerhouses, took a bold step by conducting trade in their own currencies, eliminating the dollar as an intermediary. This shift has profound implications for global trade, allowing both nations to reduce exposure to exchange rate fluctuations, lower transaction costs, and increase financial autonomy. The impact on the dollar's dominance could be seismic. Iran and Russia have made similar strides toward financial integration, openly defying Western sanctions. By linking their banking networks and accepting each other's national currencies, they are creating a new financial alliance that bypasses the Western-dominated SWIFT system. This move has already enabled them to conduct transactions without relying on the US dollar, strengthening bilateral trade while shielding themselves from economic coercion. India, too, has joined the ranks of nations challenging dollar hegemony. In 2023, India and Russia agreed to settle their energy trade in rupees and rubles, cutting the dollar out of the equation and insulating themselves from external economic pressure. This partnership sends a clear message to the West. The dollar's dominance is not as secure as once believed. Even South Africa, the smallest BRICS nation, has begun distancing itself from the dollar. By settling more transactions with China in yuan, South Africa is setting a precedent that other African nations may soon follow. This growing trend across BRICS nations, favoring local currencies and alternative payment systems, marks an unmistakable shift toward a future where the US dollar is no longer the backbone of global finance. Perhaps the most ambitious challenge to dollar dominance is BRICS Pay, a decentralized payment platform that integrates national payment systems using blockchain technology. By enabling peer-to-peer transactions and eliminating intermediaries, BRICS Pay could emerge as a powerful alternative to conventional financial networks like SWIFT. If successful, it would allow BRICS nations to settle transactions directly and securely, without the need for the US dollar. As the financial landscape continues to evolve, one thing is clear. The global order that has long revolved around the dollar is facing its most serious challenge yet. Behind the scenes, BRICS nations are stockpiling gold at an unprecedented rate. By mid-2025, they will have amassed over 600 tons, an effort aimed at shielding their economies from external financial shocks and reducing their dependence on the US dollar. But this gold accumulation is more than just an economic maneuver. It is a clear signal that BRICS nations are actively preparing for a post-dollar world, a world where financial sovereignty takes precedence. These moves are part of a broader strategy to reshape the global financial order, one that diminishes US influence and fosters greater economic independence for emerging markets. Whether the US can halt this momentum remains uncertain, but one thing is clear. The world is on the brink of a monumental shift. The battle for the future of global finance is unfolding, and the stakes have never been higher. Will the U.S. maintain its grip on the global economy, Or will BRICS pave the way for a new multipolar financial era? The answer to that question could redefine the world as we know it. Many countries are stepping away from over-reliance on the US dollar, largely because it exposes them to American sanctions that can restrict access to global financial systems. Nations like Russia and China are actively seeking alternatives to maintain economic independence and protect themselves from these limitations. Another key driver of this shift is reserve diversification. For years, central banks kept the majority of their reserves in US dollars. Now, a growing trend is emerging. Countries are spreading their reserves across multiple currencies and increasing their gold holdings. This strategy reduces financial risk while simultaneously weakening the dollar's dominance. Political and strategic considerations are also fueling this transition. China and Russia in particular are working to curb U.S. influence by promoting their own currencies in international trade, striving to create a more balanced global financial system. Additionally, regional trade agreements are increasingly encouraging nations to settle transactions in their own currencies, further diminishing the dollar's role in global commerce. As this trend accelerates, the question remains, is the era of U.S. dollar supremacy coming to an end? The answer could reshape the world's financial landscape for generations to come. That's it for today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Your support helps us bring you more in-depth content on global finance and geopolitics. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.